15,000 years ago, a wolf made a decision that changed the world. Not a human, a wolf. It was starving, exhausted, and instead of running from the nearest human campfire, it walked toward it. That one step, that one hungry animal in the dark, that is where your dog comes from. And here's what nobody talks about. Humans had absolutely nothing to do with it. We didn't choose the wolf. We didn't train it. We didn't even notice what was happening until it was already too late to stop. The wolf chose us. But in 2011, scientists pulled something out of a frozen Siberian cave that suggests this whole thing almost never happened at all. I'll show you what it was. But first, let's go back to a world where the animal sleeping on your sofa was one of the most dangerous things alive, and it wanted nothing to do with us. Imagine waking up every single morning knowing that somewhere out in the dark forest surrounding your camp, there are wolves. Not the wolves you see in wildlife documentaries, something more serious than that. Packs of 30, sometimes 40 animals moving together in total silence. Jaws built to crush bone in a single bite. Hunters so efficient they could track wounded prey across frozen ground for 3 straight days without losing the trail. Early humans didn't look at wolves and see something beautiful. They looked at wolves and saw something that could end them. And for thousands of years, that was the entire relationship between our two species. Two predators, same forests, same prey animals, constantly competing for the same food and occasionally killing each other over it. So here's the question that should genuinely bother you. How do you get from that, two species that actively threatened each other's survival, to the animal currently sleeping on your sofa? The answer starts somewhere nobody expects. It starts with how disgusting ancient humans actually were. Human camps were filthy in ways that are hard to fully picture. Cracked open bones tossed in piles after the marrow was sucked out. Animal skins rotting in the sun. Scraps of meat nobody wanted sitting out in the open air for days. The smell of an ancient human settlement carried for miles through cold forest air. And one day, a wolf caught that smell on the wind. Picture it from the wolf's perspective for a second. You're exhausted. You've been tracking a deer for 2 days and lost it in a river crossing. Your pack hasn't eaten properly in almost a week. Then the wind shifts, and something hits you. Cooked meat, warm fat, bone marrow, coming from somewhere close. Every instinct you have tells you humans are dangerous. You've seen what they can do, but you're so hungry that your legs are already moving before your brain catches up. So you edge toward the light, slowly, staying low, stopping every few steps to check the wind. Most wolves in that situation would bolt the second a human moved. The fear response was too strong. But some wolves, just a handful in any given pack, were wired slightly differently, a little less reactive, a little more capable of tolerating the noise and the fire and the terrifying proximity of people. Those particular wolves edged close enough to grab a scrap from the outer edge of the garbage pile. And then the moment that changed everything happened. The humans noticed the wolf sitting there in the dark at the edge of camp and did absolutely nothing about it. Not because they were kind or curious or wanted a pet. Because a single wolf quietly eating garbage 50 feet from the fire wasn't worth the energy of dealing with it. They had bigger problems. They were tired. It wasn't bothering anyone, so they ignored it. And that wolf, that one calm, hungry, slightly braver than average wolf, went back the next night, and the night after that. And slowly, across generations, the wolves that were too nervous to do this stayed out in the forest. The ones calm enough to handle it kept getting fed. Calm parents raised calm pups. Those pups grew up near camps, found their own scraps, had their own pups, and something began happening that nobody on either side of that campfire had any idea was coming. Nobody designed what happened next. There was no plan. No ancient human sat down and decided to selectively breed wolves for friendliness. It just happened the way most things in nature happen. Invisibly, slowly, and without anyone's permission. The wolves that kept surviving near human camps all shared one thing. They could be near people without panicking. That trait, just that one trait, was enough for nature to grab hold of and start pulling in a direction. Generation after generation, the calm wolves ate better, survived better, had more pups. The aggressive ones got chased off or killed. The anxious ones self-selected back into the wild. What remained near the camps was a population drifting steadily in one direction. And then their bodies started changing in ways nobody could have predicted. Their snouts got shorter, their teeth got smaller, their ears, this is the strange part, went floppy, completely useless for hunting, completely useless for any survival purpose in the wild. But something about those floppy ears made humans look at these animals differently, softer somehow, less threatening. And then there's the change that should genuinely stop you when you think about it. Their brains got smaller, not slightly, measurably smaller. These animals were physically trading the raw cognitive power that wolves need to survive alone in nature, the spatial awareness, the pack strategy, the environmental reading, and exchanging it for something completely different, the ability to understand humans. Studies have tested this directly. You show a dog and a hand-raised wolf the same problem, food hidden under one of two containers. A human points to the right one, the dog looks where the human is pointing. Immediately, naturally, without any training at all. The wolf, raised by humans since birth, fed by hand every day, looks at the human's hand, can't make the connection. That ability in dogs isn't trained in, it evolved in. Across thousands of generations of living alongside us, it became part of what they are at the genetic level. No other animal on Earth does this. Not chimpanzees, not dolphins, not any of the other intelligent species we share this planet with. Only the animal that spent 15,000 years choosing to live beside us developed the biological hardware to read our minds. Here's where it gets strange in a different way. Those same physical changes, the floppy ears, the smaller teeth, the patchy coat, showed up independently in domesticated pigs, in cows, in rabbits. Animals domesticated completely separately by completely different people in completely different corners of the world. Same changes, every time, without exception. Scientists call it domestication syndrome, something buried deep in mammal genetics that activates the moment an animal starts living alongside humans. One switch that rewrites the body. Nobody fully understands the mechanism yet, but it keeps switching on the same way every single time an animal makes that choice. Now, 2011, Siberia, a cave called Razboinichia. A research team is working through sediment layers deep inside the cave, and they pull out a skull. It looks like a dog, but it isn't quite right. Too big in some ways, wrong proportions in others. Somewhere between a wolf and a dog in a way that doesn't fit neatly into either category. They date it. 33,000 years old. Sit with that number for a moment. 33,000 years. That is older than the agricultural revolution, older than pottery, older than the famous cave paintings at Lascaux in France, older than virtually everything we point to when we describe the beginning of human civilization. Something was already becoming a dog before we figured out how to plant seeds in the ground. I'm going to come back to that Siberian skull in a few minutes, because what scientists believe it actually represents reframes this entire story. But first, there's something about how these animals changed internally that I think is more remarkable than anything physical. A wolf's mind is built around one central purpose: surviving without relying on anything outside the pack, reading terrain, anticipating prey, managing complex social hierarchies within a group of 30 or 40 animals. It's one of the most sophisticated minds in the animal kingdom, and it points almost entirely inward, toward the pack, toward the hunt, toward survival. What happened to the wolves near human camps is that their minds slowly stopped pointing inward and started pointing at us instead. The genetic evidence now shows that dogs process human social cues through neural pathways that wolves simply don't have in the same way. When a dog watches a human's face, it's engaging brain regions associated with reading emotional states and predicting intentions, the same regions humans use to read each other. They evolved to think about us the way we think about each other. Take a second and let that actually land. An entirely separate species, across thousands of years of living at the edges of our camps, gradually rewired its own brain to understand the interior life of a different species. Not to hunt it, not to compete with it, to connect with it. And here's where the science gets genuinely uncomfortable for anyone who likes a clean, simple story. For a long time, the assumption was that this happened once. One place, one wolf population that drifted close enough to one group of humans and crossed the threshold into domestication. Clean, linear, simple. Then researchers started mapping the ancient DNA of dog populations from different parts of the world, and the story fell apart. Dogs in Europe had one clear genetic ancestry. Dogs in East Asia had a completely separate one. Different enough and old enough that the conclusion became unavoidable. Dogs were domesticated twice, independently, in two completely different places, by two groups of people who had never met each other and had no knowledge that the other existed. Two separate moments where the exact same relationship formed between humans and wolves, with no communication, no coordination, no shared information between them. The same accident happened twice on opposite sides of the world. And when the first humans crossed into the Americas, walking the frozen land bridge connecting Siberia to what is now Alaska, somewhere between 15 and 20,000 years ago, they didn't make that crossing alone. They brought dogs with them, already changed, already bonded. These were people crossing into a completely unknown continent with no knowledge of what predators lived there, what the terrain looked like, what the conditions would be on the other side. And among the things they chose to bring on that journey, dogs made the list. Not because dogs were easy to travel with. They weren't. Because by that point humans had learned something through thousands of years of living beside these animals. You don't go into the unknown without them.